Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with another Crash Your Trash. This will be episode 13. Today we're going to be using some packaging. So I'm just going to open up with explaining what we're doing, and then I'm going to go ahead and roll over to a voiceover. I feel like that's working really well for me, and it allows me to control the length of the video. So I've got my supplies, that I've got my art glitter glue, my Fabri-Tac over there, my archival ink and vintage photo, and my tear ruler, because we're going to be doing some collaging, which is going to require some tearing. So I've got some bits already cut and prepared, some. So this is the packaging that we're going to be using. This was from a tag maker that I purchased, which I was slightly disappointed with what it could do, but I really didn't know until I tried it. But we're going to go ahead and make a pocket out of this, and we're going to utilize this window. I just realized I did not grab a piece of cellophane or what's that other, transparency or something anyway to go in the window. So I will take a moment to do that. I haven't trimmed it up or anything. I just think it's a great way, again, to use your trash instead of putting this in the recycle bin. So we're going to be trimming off the edge, and we're going to be utilizing this hole because it's very structurally sound for something. I'm not sure what. I'm not probably going to be doing a lot of decorating or embellishing on all of it. We'll see how time goes. But because I can speed the video up, it does allow me a little bit more time to do all of the things that I want to do without keeping you forever in a day. So this is the structural piece that we're going to be using. There was another one as well. Where did it go? Where's my other piece? Okay, here we go. So these are the collage bits that are going to go with that. I'm just going to tear up that paper. This is also for the Sweet Rose journal that I'm doing for my friend Evie, who won the 1,500 subscriber custom journal giveaway. So the second piece that we're going to be making is this one, using this, I think this was instructions for something to do with my computer. And so it's just an apple packaging. So I thought, wow, it's structurally sound, really thick, and will make great ephemera. So I've got some bits there as well. We'll see what we're going to do with that. And what was all of this? I don't remember. I think I'm going to make, I was going to make a tag out of that. So we will get to that momentarily. So let's go ahead and get started with collage, or getting this trimmed up. And I'm going to go ahead and roll over to the voiceover, and I will, you'll be hearing me chatting in not real time. So we're going to start by going ahead and trimming off the excess packaging for this project. I did throw that extra piece in my trash, but I might be pulling it out. I might not be able to help myself, and we'll maybe make something out of that. It's kind of got a nice little accordion action going on. So as you can probably tell, we are going to be creating a window pocket. And you can see that there's two holes there on the right side, the left side now. I thought about leaving those or using those in the project. I did not end up doing that. I believe that one is still accessible, so I can always change my mind and maybe put a dangle or something on it. We'll see later on down the road. So we're going to start by covering the back of the back piece. So this paper is called Faded Roses, and it's from Len Art Studios. All of the supplies will be linked over on my blog, and the link to the blog will be in the description box, so you can check it out if you're ever wondering what digitals I am using in this project. They will be in the Sweet Rose playlist. It's just trimming off those white borders. I can't seem to figure out how to get my printer to print borderless. I don't think it has the capability, but I don't mind just trimming that off really quickly. And so we're going to again cover the back piece, and I will explain now, even before we get there, that this kind of went a little bit sideways because I actually cut this, I get the paper ready, cut it down to size, and then ended up putting the transparency or cellophane, whatever I ended up using, in the wrong place. It shouldn't have gone on the back piece at all. It would have gone on the front piece. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that in. You guys have mentioned that you like when I leave all of the stuff in, whether it's a mistake or not, or if I have to fix something, I'm leaving that in. It's a great learning opportunity, and if it encourages people, then I want to definitely do that. So I work really hard at not hiding those flaws. So again, just trimming this down to size. Just making sure I don't have any pencil marks there that are going to show through, and I don't. So I'm going to get this prepped. This is the point where I do get ready to put the paper on, and debating on which side I want to actually show through the window. It looks like I was kind of landing on that, but you'll see in the end I changed my mind, but you can see that in the pictures at the end of the video as well. I'm using my art glitter glue to go ahead and adhere that paper to the back piece of the packaging. The glue is having a little bit of trouble today because it is very warm out. I think it's about 92 degrees here. And I did, because I knew I was going to do a voiceover, I was able to leave my air conditioner running and keep it cooler in here, which makes it easier, obviously, to work. But during the voiceover, I did turn it off so that it's not so loud for you guys. It really distorts the audio. So here, I'm just taking a break and going to look for some of the transparency or whatever the packaging. I'm not sure exactly what I grabbed. I think I ended up with some actual transparency film. So this is the point where I think I'm supposed to glue it on now on the back piece, and it doesn't go there. And in the end, it ends up being useless, basically, because I was unable to pull it off. But again, it's not a big deal because this piece will be glued on or glued into the journal, so nobody's ever going to know other than you and I, and Evie. She's the recipient of this journal, and that is quite all right. I don't mind. So reapplying some of the glue, because the art glitter glue, or this is actually Barely Art, excuse me, the glue does dry pretty quickly, so I wanted to make sure I had enough to actually have that paper adhere onto the board here, because it is a fairly thick, not a super thick cardboard, but it is pretty darn sturdy. So putting that transparency on, and then the paper, and this is where I decided I was gonna put the coffee dyed side through the window. I did go kind of back and forth with that, but because I messed it up, it doesn't end up showing at all. So it's the floral side that ends up peeking through that window, but you'll be able to see that as we move further through the process here. Just doing a little bit more of a trimming there. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and we're going to begin to collage. Oh, there, I'm just marking that hole in case I want to, again, reserve that. And now we're going to start with the collaging on the front piece. And what I like to do is just use my tear ruler and tear pieces just however, willy-nilly, whatever strikes me at the moment. I am using, excuse me, the tear ruler because I like that jagged edge it creates a lot of interest in the project. So I'm going to go ahead and set this part to music, just because you guys have seen me collage a lot of times if you follow me on my channel, and I want to be able to make this video a little bit shorter for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on. I'll come back when the collaging is done. And here I just want to take a moment and explain what I'm doing here. I wanted to be able to have those rounded corners there, and it's a little bit trickier to do that when you're collaging. So as you can see, I went ahead and just laid a piece of paper underneath, and I'm just tracing that curvature so that I can retain that. So I'm going to do that for the bottom piece as well as the top piece. So I'll let you continue watching. Okay, just finishing up with the collaging. As you can see here, I did want to mention really quickly that I did print out some of the kit pages on 20-pound paper. All of my other printables are printed on 65-pound paper. I really like that heavier weight, but I like to use the 20-pound when I know I'm going to be doing collaging. So I'm fussing with this little scrap because it has the word France on it, and I really like that touch, and so I'm trying to get just the word France because, as you can see, that space at the top of the packaging is not very big. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there, and then I'll just trim it off the top side there. Oh, I guess this is where I decided I needed to go and do the curves on that piece as well, so completely forgot about that. You know, when your brain gets old and you can't remember what you did an hour ago, that's kind of where I'm at. I did the video this morning, and then I went and met my girls and their kids and did a little bit of bowling this afternoon, and then I came back to do the voiceover. So I forget things really fast. It's just part of being older, I guess. But it's okay. I hope that it's not too broken for you guys. And I always appreciate your feedback. So if there's something that I'm doing that is just making it difficult for you to watch or stay interested or understand what I'm doing, please do feel free to let me know. I take no offense at any suggestions or comments. I love it. I do this for you guys. I'm not doing this for me. I love creating, and I love creating on camera because it makes me happy. So we're going to go ahead and again just finish up the last little bits on this. I find collaging very relaxing. I don't know if you guys do, but I definitely enjoy it. And it's a great way to use your scraps. I can't remember if I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but I typically will do this kind of work with scraps from the kits that I'm using, but because I'm just starting the journal, I don't have any scraps yet. So this is the stage where we're making scraps. So I just, again, printed several of the pages on 20-pound paper, and those will be scraps. Those will be used for various things in this project similar to this. So it works out just fine. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up and then glue that last piece on, and then we will swiftly move along. I hope you guys are all well. It's really, as I mentioned, it's really warm here. The summer is going so fast. I can't believe we're already a month in to, about a 2-month summer break for me, and it's just flying by. It's been good. It's been very, very good. I've spent time with two of my older sisters, and had some contact with some family that I haven't seen in a long time, one of my aunts and cousins and stuff. So that's been really nice. So grateful for healing that moves us into places where we can begin to contemplate those kinds of things and not feel threatened or afraid or unsure and those kinds of things. So it's been a true joy. So, but it's going way too fast. So let's see what is next, because my brain cannot remember. I love that piece on the bottom. That was not on purpose or for any particular reason, but it worked out really nice because I'm able to create some additional decoration at the bottom on that green portion, which is really nice. So what I'm doing here is I like to spread out the color around on whatever project that I'm working on. And so I wanted another little bit of touch of green on the left-hand side there. So I'm just getting another one of the strips of the green and doing that really quickly. I just feel like it balances out the whole piece when the colors are all represented several times. There's kind of a rule of threes in art that it's been proven that people will move from like things to like things. So kind of in a triangle really is helpful and very pleasing to the eye for whoever is viewing it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that on. It's struggling apparently. It's so hard when our brains get old, isn't it? Just have to be grateful that I can do this, grateful that I have the health to do this. So definitely no complaints here. Just musings, I guess. I don't mind that there's a little bit of an overhang and that it's imperfect. So if you've watched my videos at all, you know that I always say perfection is not at play in my studio, and I really, really mean that. So it's very freeing to not worry about those little details. So here is where I'm kind of contemplating, do I want that window or the coffee dyed paper on through the window or the back side? And I was kind of settled on it because I realized that the cellophane here in a moment or two, that the transparency was glued to the wrong piece. It should have been glued to the front piece that I just finished. So I'm going to be needing to grab another piece of that as well. Oh, here I realized I did have a little bit of a gap that I was not happy with. So just adding another bit there just to cover up that little seam. There we go. Just trim that up a little bit. And this is where I realized it was wrong and I can't take it apart. So again, I did just kind of let it go, and I'm just going to go ahead and start over, put the transparency on the back of the front piece, and I'm going to turn that back piece over and allow that Faded Roses paper to show through the window. So my encouragement to you, if I could give you some, would be to not stress or fret about those things that don't go the way that you planned. Almost always there's a way to fix it. Almost always there's a way to improvise. So don't beat yourself up. Know that we all make the mistakes. Even the greatest artists in the world still make mistakes. And so be encouraged that it's really healthy and it's better for your artistic journey to let go of the imperfection and just enjoy the process. That would be my number one suggestion, is just have fun in what you're doing and know that, it may not be your favorite project when you're done, but it will still be usable, and it's for your junk journal, right? It's just for inside of a book, not a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this piece of transparency to the right piece of the recycled material here. And then we'll be gluing the front to the back, obviously, on 3 sides, the bottom and the 2 sides, leaving the top open for a pocket. I could have probably cut that down, but I'm not going to use that little scrap anyway. It's just going to get tossed in the trash, so I just left it there and didn't worry about it. I could have still left it with the coffee dyed paper side up, but decided that since I didn't need that cellophane or transparency on the back, that I would just go ahead and turn that around and let those beautiful roses shine through. Just contemplating, apparently, for a lot longer than I remember contemplating. But it's okay. Gotta embrace it, right? What else are we gonna do? Cry? Life is too short for that. We're just crying about other things. We don't need to be crying about our art, right? So there, I'm using my art glitter glue here. I know that I was kind of going back and forth. I'm not sure why I had them both out, but I did. Oh, grab my hole punch to go ahead and, again, reserve that hole. Make sure that I can get through it before things get too thick. So went ahead and did that there. Just putting that in place and just making sure that it's nice and lined up. I did have to do just a slight bit of trimming on the right side, but it wasn't too awfully bad for being packaging. Like, packaging can be fairly irregular, and I thought it turned out really good for being just packaging. Just trimming that top edge off just a bit, and you can see the word France there. I love that. I'm so glad that showed through. If you guys have watched me for any length of time, you know that Paris and French and all of that is just a love for me. It's a passion. So I love to highlight any of that I can. Just was making sure that my pocket is accessible and no glue was closing it up or limiting the space in there. So we're going to start working on a tag for this pocket. So I decided to use the image on the right side, so I'm just going to trim that down. I'm just going to use my pencil on either side, trying to keep it pretty far from the edge, just because I've noticed that often I make my items that go in the pockets kind of bigger and wider than they should be. That makes it kind of challenging to get them in and out. So I am watching that in this journal, doing some things just slightly different. I don't know what I was doing there, guys, honestly. Craziness. I'm just cutting along those pencil lines. Kind of getting an idea of how tall the tag can be. I did have to make another change here, as you'll see here in a few minutes, because I realized that as I was constructing the tag that it was too tall and the images of the roses would not have shown through in the window. So, but I'll let you watch that and catch up with that whole process here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and make my tag corners here using that neat little trick where you cut one corner, turn that piece over, and then cut it again, and then you know that they're exactly the same. I don't know where I saw that. I see a lot of people on YouTube do that, so that's where I learned it anyway. Go ahead and ink the front and the back. This image is double printed, so it's got coffee dyed paper digital on the back, so that we can have a nice writing space there. And just in case you're curious, I do use vintage photo archival ink in all of my art because it is water resistant. So if I were to go and want to use a wet medium for some reason, none of my ink is going to smear. So that's really important to me. And as a mixed media artist, that's what I use for mixed media art as well. So it's kind of a natural thing for me to carry over into my paper crafting. This is where I was talking about I need to get those roses to be able to be in the window. So I'm going to need to cut this tag off at the bottom. So I'm just kind of measuring that out to take off as least amount as I have to. I do like my tags and bits to hang out the top, especially out of pockets and things. It adds a lot of interest to the top of the journal when you're kind of looking at it from the outside. I like that look. I'm just going to get that in there and just make sure it is nice and lined up. That is beautiful, and I love that portion that's sticking out the top. So I'm going to be grabbing a piece of lace and putting a lace topper on this. I'm going to grab my bin of scraps. This is, believe it or not, small scraps of fabric, lace, yarn, ribbon, all that kind of stuff, all the textile stuff. But it sits like right on in front of me all the time. Looking forward to doing a studio tour for you guys so you can kind of see how I've updated things with having done the new paint. And I didn't rearrange the studio per se, but we've got the wood floors in here, or the laminate, and so things are slightly different. And so I'm going to do a new video. I'm going to do a new craft room tour. I usually do one each year, so I have not done one this summer yet. So looking forward to doing that. I'm waiting for my husband to build some custom shelves in the corner of my desk area, so I won't be doing the studio tour until that is done. So it might be another couple of months. So I was thinking about finding something else to go there on the top. I do kind of fish around in that basket again. I did not find anything that seemed to spark my interest, so I did just go ahead and move on to the next step here. I'm going to do a little bit of a collage on the lower right hand corner of this tag. My friend Evie, who is getting this journal, she's one of the folks that has mentioned that she really enjoys those little clusters because they always are just slightly different, and they always have a word, some kind of an encouraging sentiment or something. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the bottom right hand corner of the tag here. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and turn the music on and let you just watch the collage process here. So I'll just take a moment and explain kind of how I think through the clusters. So I usually pull a piece of music page or book page, some other element that kind of just pops, like this is a piece of paper that has some gold writing on it. It's just a scrap from my basket. And then I usually will pick a scrap from the digitals that I'm using to kind of tie in that in a small way so that it looks cohesive with the whole journal or the whole piece or page or spread or whatever the area is that I'm working on. And then this is just a piece of some tissue paper from my stash, my scraps. I'm just going to go ahead and glue that on as well. I do like to put lace in between, thin lace between some of the layers of the collage. So you're going to see me do that here in a moment before I glue this last piece on and before I put a word on. So I've got this piece of lace that's in the scrap bin, and I'm just going to cut off that straight edge off the top that has kind of a border, and I'm going to cut off the ruffly part at the bottom, or the scalloped part rather, and put that under this last piece, and then I'm going to put another piece on top of that before I put the word on. So I'll just let you continue watching for another couple of minutes. again, just going to finish up by putting this last piece of lace on, and then the word that I chose for this was family. And I did that with Ebby in mind. She is one of my most faithful commenters, so one of my most faithful commenters on all of my projects on Facebook and on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate the support and the encouragement. She always has really good suggestions too, which we all need that, right? We can't think of everything, so it's nice when people have the courage to share their thoughts to creators or for creators, because that's how we learn as well. So I really appreciate it. So we're done with that little cluster. I'm not going to put it back in that pocket because it's still wet and I don't want to get any glue in there. So I am going to do a little bit of decorating on the front of this panel, or this pocket, excuse me. So I chose this sentiment that says collect beautiful moments, and again that is with my friend in mind. And I am grabbing some recently coffee dyed lace that I just did this week, and I love it because it's kind of a lace that has a stitch design as well as some like tulle, I guess you call it, that kind of, you know what I mean, you can see it there. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the bottom. I love having lace hang off the bottom of pieces in the journal, because that shows at the bottom of the journal when you look at it that way. So I'm just trimming that down, and I'm going to glue it on with my Fabri-Tac. And then I'm also going to come in with another strip of paper, because I don't like the tulle, that line that I'm creating there by cutting it with the scissors. So I'm going to kind of disguise that a little bit. Turned out really good, and then I'm able to just put that sentiment right on top of it, and it was just perfect. But the coffee dyeing on this kind of lace, the coffee just settles into all of that stitching, and this was pure white lace, so it is awesome. And I literally, when I did the coffee dyeing this week, I pretty much dropped stuff into the coffee, took it right back out, and it was done. Like, it was the fastest process. And I typically don't do envelopes and things like that, but I did this time, and I'm really pleased with it. And I also did some seam binding that I ordered off of Amazon. And so I did some more coffee dyed, kind of a brownish, and I actually did some colors too, now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, it's super fun. So I'm going to use this print. It is in French. It's the same paper that word France came off of. So I want both of the edges to be roughly torn, so that's why I'm using my tear ruler there. And I'll ink that up and get it on, and then we'll put the sentiment, collect beautiful memories, on top of that. And then we'll be ready to move on to the second project, which is that little white kind of pocket sleeve thing that came something with my computer anyway. So I saved a lot of that packaging, and I like it because it's durable. It's going to make a great piece of ephemera, and it's a way to use your trash and not throw it in the dumpster or throw it in the recycling and have it end up somewhere. I mean, in recycling, I know they do good things with paper, but often my papers from my studio don't usually get in the recycling though, because they're in my studio, so they go in the general garbage for the most part. I maybe need to change that, be a little bit more effective in that way. I could separate out my paper from other trash, but we'll see. So just placing it there, I'm just kind of want to still see that green sliver of paper up above, so I'm leaving a little bit of space there. Just trimming up that lace just a bit. And there I was just, again, pondering that was useless. So it's just going to be glued down, I mean, if I decided to have that be a free-floating pocket, I could totally just cover the back of that. But we'll see when we get to putting things in the journal. Still at the very beginning stages of this process. I'm not sure what the delay was there. Voiceovers are always fun and interesting. I'm just going to use, I believe, my art glitter glue to go ahead and glue that on, because I'm just gluing paper to paper. Beautiful. Love it. And now we can go ahead and slide that tag in as well. It's probably dry enough. And as you can see, it's going to slide down far enough that only those images of the roses are going to show. Really, really pleased with how that turned out. They don't always turn out how we picture them, you know. So here is project number 2. So that bit that you see on the left, I think that might have been a tag for the inside of the other one. I can't quite remember. And as I was doing this in real time, I actually created this project, got all the pieces laid out and cut and prepared about 5 days ago. And then I've had a really busy week, so I haven't refreshed my memory on what I was trying to do. So some of this doesn't get used at all because I couldn't remember, like, what was I doing with it? So but that's okay because it just requires some improvisation, and I just had to kind of go, okay, what was I trying to do? What do I want to do now? And it all worked out and was beautiful in the end. So as you can see, this is stark white, and I don't like that. So I am making sure that all of the edges are nice and inked up because I don't want any of that to show. There is a little bit of it's like a 1/16 of an inch thickness on the sides and the edges of that little pouch. So I wanted to make sure that none of the white shows through on there. It's going to be great for a pocket though, because it's probably going to be able to hold more than one thing. We'll see what we end up doing as time moves on. So what I'm doing here is I have another strip of paper. I'm going to ink it up, and then I cut it so that it could go inside of the top edge of that pocket so that we don't see any of that white. It does have some ink on it right now, but I don't want any of that white to show. So I do have to fuss with this a little bit because it's cut a little bit too long. And so I'm going to fuss a little bit trying to get this whole piece in, and it doesn't go in. And so I just trim off a smidge and then give it another try. It didn't have to be the full length of the inside. I just did it like that because I had the paper to fit it. So, and you wouldn't actually have had to put anything there. I just didn't care for, that white. It's so strange though, because my whole studio is white, and yet in my projects, I don't like things to be completely white. It's so strange. I don't mind if I have white lace and stuff in the project, but generally I like things to not be white. So here I'm finding another piece to cover the top, that little top piece. I do end up cutting that off in the end, so just an FYI, this is kind of a moot point because I didn't like it sticking up because it looked really plain when I was done, and I thought, I can't really put anything on it because it will impede the pocket, so I did end up cutting it off. But I'm just leaving this in, again, because that's my commitment to you, is to leave everything in the video so that we can learn together about how we decide what works and what doesn't work, what we like and what we don't like, and then we just kind of roll with that peacefully and joyfully, hopefully. So that's why I leave it in. So just trimming that off here. Even though it's going to get cut off in the end, it's quite all right. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and work on the front of this little pocket thing. So I was trying to slide this into the pocket so I could get a marking so that I could cut that indent out. I was really proud of myself because it didn't take me very long to figure out an alternative way to do this, as you're going to see here in a moment. I'm trying to cram it in. There is no way, and I didn't want to cut it down because then it would be too small for the front, even though you're going to see as we move along that I do have to trim it up for another reason. But as we were at this point, I didn't want to make it any narrower than it already was. So I'm just going to use my pencil and pencil line around that in that tab bit so that I can cut around it and have that be notched out as well. I don't fussy cut very well on camera, so I'm trying to move really slow so I don't flub it up. I don't like fussy cutting. I do it, but I do not care for it. And there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and ink that up, and then we can go ahead and glue that panel on. I guess I need to ink the whole thing. Forgot I thought I had already done that. And of course, as I mentioned in every video, you don't have to ink things up. If you like a more clean and crisp look, you do it. You do you. This is just my style and what I enjoy. I like things to be grungy. So we're going to go ahead and glue this on. And what I'm realizing at this point is that that piece that I cut was not precise. And so if I line up the bottom of the card that's going to go on top, the white shows up at the top. So I'm going to trim off so I have an even border around this whole square or this whole piece, so that when I glue it down, I can cover up that white and it will all look like it was done on purpose. I guess is my point. So now when I move it down, I have to move it up a little bit, so I do have to trim that a little bit at the top as well. But because we inked that whole surface, it doesn't matter that the paper's not going to the edge. So that's another place where, you know, if you kind of can be thinking about what you're trying to do, you can improvise, you know, ink something up. Ink disguises a lot of things. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is a godsend in many ways. When you make a mistake or something's not quite straight, ink will oftentimes disguise that enough so that your project is still okay to use and doesn't look terrible. So just going to go ahead and glue this piece on as well. And then we'll work on the journal card that's going to go in the inside of this pocket next, and then we will be done for the day. So I am using my art glitter glue. You don't have a lot of time to reposition, so I'm picking it up so that I can make sure everything looks nice and straight. And as you can see there, we do have a little bit of a white border around the whole that digital paper. And here is the point where I decided I was going to cut off that tab. I just didn't like it at all because I was thinking, oh, I could put something on it, but it would impede anything that I put in the pocket. So I am going to go ahead and just trim that off, as I mentioned before. Oh, I guess I don't do it quite yet. Goodness gracious, Cara-Renee. So this is another digital, and again, it will be linked in the supply list. So I'm inking around the edges. I did back this with some of the 3M masking paper that I often use, especially in clusters. I was really impressed with how it covered on the back of this, not adding really any bulk at all, like a whole piece of paper or coffee dyed paper or something. It's super thin, somewhat translucent, and it worked perfectly. I did not want to take the time to sew around this on camera because my sewing machine is not set up right now. So I will maybe do that later when I do some other stitching in the journal and in the signatures, but for now I'm just going to leave it glued. So this is a punch that I have that I like to use to make tabs for journal cards and tags and things. So I'm going to put it on the front and the back, as you'll see here, and it is self-explanatory. Just kind of gives a nice little, something to pull when you want to pull a card or a tag out of a pocket. So it's nifty. I like the shape. I like the scalloped top on it. So it's something that I use often. Just trying to line it up so that it's even on that kind of banner piece that's a part of the digital. I didn't really care for that in this particular project. So, and I'm going to go ahead and put the back piece on as well. And I think it kind of looks classy just to have that kind of, that added little bit of length there. It doesn't bother me. Sometimes I'll use circles as well, just use my circle punch and do the same thing. So here I'm going to use that same kind of floral garland. It's made out of like, it's got a silky feel. It's really pretty, really beautiful. So I'm just going to use the flower. So I'm cutting off the excess ribbon that's attaching those, and I'm going to use that as a little focal point on the top of this journal card. And then we are just about done. I can't remember if we put, no, we didn't put anything on the bottom. We didn't put any cluster on it. The last thing that I'm going to do before I let you go is I'm going to get my gold paint out. I usually do use golden fluid, iridescent gold fine to do some gold ink around my projects. I must have misplaced it, or I didn't have the patience to dig through the entire drawer, but I'm using a different one. It's called, let me grab it here. It's called Iridescent Bright Gold. So it's a little bit more vibrant than what I typically use. So, oh, here is the point where I am going to go ahead and cut that off. I'm like, it doesn't serve a purpose, so let's just get it out of there. Isn't that the beauty of our own projects and our own creativity, that we can change our mind and we don't have to answer to anybody? So there we go. So I'm going to take a moment and grab that gold paint, and I will be back here in a moment. And there it is. I think I just ran out of patience kind of looking. My golden fluid acrylic bottles will eventually be on the corner shelves, and I won't have to dig through drawers to find them, but right now they're in a drawer because they don't have another home right now. So I just squirt some out on my mat, and I just use my finger to kind of skip around the edges to get a little bit of a tinge of that gold here and there. So I'm going to do that on the base here as well as on the journal card. So we are just about done, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. If you like what you're seeing here and you like the content, please feel free to subscribe. I would love to see you over here. I try not to push that. I know it can be kind of off-putting sometimes for folks to constantly be hearing. I know it bothers me when I'm on other people's channels. So I make a practice of not mentioning it very often, but I am going to go ahead and do it here. So if you like it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified when every time I create a new video or post a new video, you can hit the notification bell and you'll be notified. So I love to see you all here. I love the engagement and the interaction. I love your comments and your feedback and your suggestions. So thank you guys so much for being here, for taking time out of your day to visit. Take care. Bye-bye.